Hey, what's up, you guys? Jeff Cohn here with another episode of the Team Building Podcast, where we interview top team leaders, broker owners, and thought leaders from across the country. We are kicking it off in January 2022 with the big picture topic. I do not have a guest today. It is me, myself, and I sitting alone in my studio. My trusty and worthy companion, Dana, had to run home for a micro emergency. And so I am rocking this one first time ever alone. So this should be a fun time. I'm going to spend the next 15 to 20 minutes talking with our audience about where I came from in terms of our real estate business, where we are now and where we're going. And my hope is that I'll be able to share with our listeners some of the stepping stones that I had to step on, some of the risks I had to take, some of the failures that I experienced to get our business to where we created it, Omaha's Elite Real Estate Group, going from 70 to over 700 sites in 6 years. So the big picture is creating clarity in your business. And to do that, you first have to create clarity in your life. A great book that I'd recommend to our listeners would be The One Thing, that talks a lot about that, where Gary Keller and Jay Papasan kind of define the different areas of your life that you need to be focused on to start getting certain results. What's the one thing in your personal relationships, the one thing in your health, the one thing in your business, and the one thing in your job that makes all the difference? And so going back to 2006, that's when I graduated from college. I got an undergrad degree in business administration with an emphasis in management and a minor in Spanish. I had just spent 2 years on a missions trip to Brazil, learning to speak fluent Portuguese on that missions trip. Of course, went to high school in Omaha, Nebraska. 2006 rolls around and I know I want to go out and make money. I had just recently gotten married. I had a baby, and I had the whole world in front of me. And this is just 15 years ago. So it's pretty crazy, everything that can happen in a very short amount of time, if you're consistent on the small and simple things over a long period of time. And so that's what this big picture message is going to be about today. So hopefully our listeners can take something away. You can, as you listen to my story, I think you'll find the place where you are at on your journey. And of course, it doesn't have to be building a real estate team. It could be building any other type of business venture or charitable or organization that you belong to. And all of us are on a path, and there is no end. There is no finish line. I think that's the biggest lie in life. We think if we arrive to A, B, C, or D, whatever the case might be, then we'll be happy. Then we'll have made it. Then there will be no problems. And that's simply not the case. I like to think a lot about the tortoise and the hare. If you don't know about that, then you probably didn't read a lot as a child. But the story goes, there was a tortoise and a hare. They were in a race. The hare was so confident that he was going to win that he continued to take naps throughout the race, or have different little activities that he did. And one of the times he did fall asleep and the tortoise beat him. And so I think about our lives, and I think so often we are that hare, and we do fall asleep in some ways. I think we're so busy running on that rat race that we fall asleep around our relationship, or we fall asleep around our mental or physical health, or we fall asleep around the job that we're in, and we just keep doing the same thing consistently, day after day, year after year, grinding decades after decades, and we look back and we have regrets. And so the number one thing that compelled me to share all of these different things on my podcast, as well as start the coaching organization, as well as launch the brokerage and the ancillaries and all the things that I do, is I wanted personally to not have regrets. And so I continued to scale up and take on more risk and face greater fears in my life. But more important to me than that was helping other people that were stuck in the rat race find different ways to navigate the businesses that they're in, changing their mindset, changing their outlook on life, changing the risks that they chose to take. And when you see somebody go before you and do something great, it gives you the ability to dream about doing that for yourself. And so I have wanted to forge a path that others could follow. I certainly don't know everything. The more I know, the less I know. The more problems I solve, the more problems I create. But I do want to be a person that can speak to all of my failures and all of my mistakes that I've gone on, so that other people don't have to struggle in the same ways that I've struggled. And of course, you'll find different struggles along the way. So thank you to everyone that has supported the Team Building Podcast up to this point. Before I dive into topic today, I want our listeners to know how grateful I am for all the kind words that we get. We get constantly every day. We get a call, a text, an email, a letter, gifts. just thanking us for the content that we're sharing. And of course, a lot of that gratitude and credit goes to our amazing guests that have chosen to volunteer their time and share with us their expertise. We've recorded over 200 episodes. If anyone wants to pick up any of those episodes, they want to watch them live, and we have them all on YouTube if you want to watch the actual video recordings. But most people are just listening. We're everywhere that a podcast would be. But the best way, I think, to access our podcast is just to go through our website. If you go to growwithers.com or just simply eliterealestatesystems.com and click on podcast, you can give us your email address. And every time a new episode launches, you'll get an email. And the unique thing about the email is it breaks down the episode. It'll give you the playable links that you can listen to on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever, but also the YouTube link. But it breaks down kind of an idea of what that particular podcast episode is all about. So please be sure to sign up for that. And then also, if you haven't already, the only place we ask for reviews is on the Apple Podcast app. When you go on there, if you scroll down, you'll see there's a way to give us a 5-star review. We ask for 5 stars. And then we also ask that you just make a quick little comment about what you've learned over the years. That's my number one ask. It's the only thing I ask that anyone gives to us that's choosing to take advantage of listening to the content, is that they give us that review. And the reason for that is there's an algorithm where the more reviews that we can get and the more engagement on that podcast app, the more people will see that this podcast exists. Up to this point, I think we are the only podcast in the real estate space that focuses on teams. It surprises me, and in some ways doesn't. It actually saddens me that 95% of the other real estate podcast focuses on teaching people to be hamsters on hamster wheels. It teaches a mindset that to me is not an abundant mindset. It's a very small mindset. It's the traditional broker mindset that teach agents how to grind and work 80 hours a week and work until you're 90 years old. Our podcast is all about teaching people to not be on the wheel, teaching people to empower themselves to choose what roles they want to be in, what role they want to play within their business, to be able to take off a month, take off a year, walk away from their business entirely, but still be able to net $1 million a year. And that's the message that I felt like Keller Williams represented, which we are broker agnostic, but I have chosen to align myself with Keller Williams from a brokerage standpoint. And Gary Keller was very instrumental in that decision based on a lot of the books that he's put out, which I think he's the only broker leader that's written any books that are worthy of speaking to. But if you haven't read all of them, they are all worthy of being read. Shift, Hold, Flip, The One Thing, Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which was written almost 15 years ago and still applies today. And so a lot of the ideas that I'm going to share and what I actually implemented in my business came from 3 things. And these 3 things are an exercise or a practice that I'd recommend that everyone becomes more self-aware on or around, more cognizant of, and that is the difference between you and me. And I've said this a lot from stage. I don't know that I've said it a lot on the podcast, but the truth is the difference between you and me are the podcasts that you listen to, the people that you mastermind with, and the books that you listen to or read. So if you really think about life and the people that you interact with, the real difference is simply the books they read, the people that they spend time with, and then the podcasts that they listen to. So if you want to change yourself, change the way you spend your time. And coming into 2022, if you want to be more like so-and-so, and you can picture a person that you want to be like when you grow up. I still like to use that phrase when I meet someone that's awesome at something. I say, I want to be like you when I grow up. Spend time with that person. Take that person to lunch. Ask that person what their daily routines look like. Spend a day with that person if they're willing to give you a day, and it'll change your world, because you're going to recognize people don't achieve greatness by simply making a decision to be great. They make a decision to do all of the small and simple things consistently over a long period of time. And the truth is that when you share with somebody what it took you to get to where you are today, most people either don't believe you that you did the things that you've done, or they simply don't want to have to put in the work and they want to find an easy way. And the truth is there's no easy way to greatness. There's no easy way to success. There's no easy way to being number one. One book I just recently finished was Winning, written by the health, nutrition, mental coach of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And he's coached a ton of other greats in the basketball world. But it's a great book and talks about winning and how winning you win once, but then if you want to keep winning, you've got to keep leveling up and you have to keep investing time in yourself and keep bettering yourself. And so as we talk about the team building podcast and we talk about the big picture training, which is the January topic for Elite Real Estate Systems, big picture goes far beyond just selling real estate. Real estate for me and real estate for a lot of us is a vehicle to generate revenue that is money. It's an energy. It's ones and zeros in our bank account. To me, I don't think anyone lives a life where they just want money for money alone. Money by itself is nothing. It's what the money can do for us. It can buy us freedom. It can give us the ability to donate charitably. It can pay for education. It can buy us time. It can save people that are unhealthy in different ways. Money can also cause a lot of problems. Money can create as many issues as it can solve, depending on what your relationship is to the money. And I've had a journey of generating a lot of income. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've lost a lot of income. And through that journey, I've learned that it's not about the money. It's about the lives that you impact, the influences you create, living and leading the life of your dreams. Everyone has their own life, their own dreams, their own expectations for what they want to accomplish. And as we turn this decade, we're in the 2020s and coming into 2022, it gives us all cause to reflect what we want to accomplish this year, the next 5 years, the next 20 years. I'm going to throw a lot of book recommendations out on this episode just because these are the books that have helped me become the person that I am today. And I thank the authors of these books and the time that they took. Most people don't make a lot of money off books. Books are typically written for people to help impact other people's lives. One of the books is The 5 Regrets of the Dying. I read this book in my 20s. And so now I just turned 40 a month ago. And I reflect back to the 5 regrets, and I won't give them all away. But one of the regrets was living a life that someone else wanted you to live, feeling the pressure from your spouse or your parents or your grandparents or a teacher or whoever. A lot of us live a life that we didn't choose. I think we're in a rat race. We're running on that hamster wheel of a life somebody else put us on, or a line that we didn't really want to be on and we just ended up there. And that's okay. The number one thing is to recognize what life are you living now, and then what changes do you need to make in your life or in your business to get you to a place where you're changing your daily routine so that you can get off that rat race, you can get off that other person's dreams for you and start living your own life and be empowered to be able to do that. And it does take money in a lot of cases to be able to be empowered to change your course. And our goal and our intent with the Team Building Podcast and Elite Real Estate Systems Team Leader Training was to empower individuals to have the right systems in place, the right culture, the right lead gen processes and lead conversion processes, the right ancillary businesses, so that they could truly lead their life however they wanted while impacting and influencing the people in their worlds. So going all the way back to when I first got licensed, it was in 2006. I took my real estate courses in college as part of my credits to graduate. And I got my license in November of 2006. So my first full year was 2007. From 2007 through the end of 2011, I was obsessed with being a real estate agent, being the best real estate agent I could be. And I did informational interviews my first year with all the top agents in my market. And then when I decided to launch a team in the summer of 2011, I did informational interviews with probably over 50 agents all across the country. And so in that time period of 07 to 11, my focus was twofold. Number one was serving my clients. And then number two was serving my team that I knew I was going to eventually build. I wanted to become the best agent for my customer, and I wanted to be the best team leader for my agents that worked for me. And so I read books, I listened to podcasts, and I masterminded. And so those practices haven't changed, and they're applicable to anyone in any business, no matter what it is that you're trying to achieve. So my first year in 2007, I just needed to learn the grind. I did open houses. I did cold calling. I did expired calls with the Red X. I paid for internet leads, not knowing how to generate them. I built a website, not knowing why I was building a website. I did everything I knew at that time that I was supposed to do to be successful. And my goal was to make 6 figures. And my first year in 2007, I made $96,000 net. So I was $4,000 off my $100,000 goal. Pretty happy about that. In Omaha, Nebraska, you could expect out of college today and then to earn around $35,000 to $40,000. So I doubled that my first year. And so I was excited. So going into 2008, I wanted to work smarter, not harder. I continually did the same things consistently, but I started focusing on maybe a little bit higher dollar price point, higher commission, worked listings a little bit more, knowing that buyers took more work. And then we all know what happened in 2008, 2009, 2010. In a market where it took listings 7 to 9 months to sell, I was still going after listings because I knew they generated buyer leads. And in 2011, I got to the point where I was doing about 75 transactions a year, earning over $300,000 net a year. I was in my late 20s. And that's kind of where I started to self-examine, come to this point where I was like, am I really happy with what I'm doing? And I was checking out at a home improvement store, and this young gentleman, maybe he's 19 or 20 years old, was checking me out. I said, how you doing today? And he said, I'm living the dream. And he was serious. And I'm like, how's this kid that's 19 making $8 an hour living the dream? And I'm, almost 30 making more money than most people I knew. But I didn't feel like I was living the dream. I was miserable. I was in the rat race. I was on a hamster wheel. Putting a lot of money in my broker's pocket, putting a lot of money in my investors' pockets that I represented, earning enough to live a great life for my family, but not home, missing out on things. At the time, I want to say the kids today are 16, 14, 12. So minus 10 years ago, they were 6, 4, and 2. And I was missing stuff, and I was feeling anxious about the fact that I was missing stuff, and I was sacrificing every year. When a new year comes around, for anyone in production, I know this is going to hit home for you. I might have just done 75 deals and been the number one agent at my company, but next year's a new year. More appointments, more calls, more contract negotiating, more everything. I had to do it personally because I was working. That was my job. And so the big picture training and what this podcast is all about is taking a step back and asking ourselves, what would we have to do if we didn't have a job inside our company? Who would I need to hire? Who would my first hire be? Who would my fifth hire be? How could I create a world where my business would grow exponentially over the next 10 years where I didn't have to play an active role? And so those are the things that we talk about on this podcast. And those are also the types of things that we get into with our coaching organization, Elite Real Estate Systems. Every Thursday for an hour, we're speaking to 12 different main core topics. Each month we dissect each topic. So the month of January is big picture. So we'll have 4 calls on Thursdays. We do a 30-minute topical, and then we do 30-minute of a group mastermind and Q&A with myself or Andy Cuny, which is another one of our coaches. That product kicks off, the first 3 months are $500 a month. So if anyone wants more information about that or feels like that's something they want to get on board with in 2022, we would love to add you to our family. We have almost 100 clients in the Team Leader product. You can go to growwithers.com to find out more information about that Team Leader product for you to help you scale your residential real estate business. So the biggest picture I found, the thing that I feel like really helped me, a lot of pro athletes talk about, and it's clarity. There's another book called Predictable Revenue. Getting your point to a place in your business where you knew that if somebody were to come over and give you $100,000, you knew how to deploy that $100,000. You knew exactly what your return would be. And I can say after 10 years, I know what those numbers look like. In the last 10 years, we've actually done over 2,500 internet sales. On those sales, it's generated over $15 million in commission revenue, of which we've retained, our company's retained half, 50%, because we charge a 50% referral fee on internet leads. Over the last 10 years, internet leads have consisted of, or made up about a third of our overall business. And so when somebody would come into our world, they usually would have the goal of making $100,000 a year. Today, 20 years later, after I graduated high school, I guess I would say 15 years after I graduated college, a lot of people want to make $100,000 a year. Well, we know exactly the work it takes consistently over a 6-month to 12-month period to generate that kind of revenue. That's the big picture. Can people join your organization? And can you be able to tell them unequivocally that if they do ABC every single day, 5 days a week, 20 days a month for a 12-month period, that they will earn a certain dollar amount? We can say that. We know exactly the activities it takes. And we believe that an agent in their first year probably will do about 12 to 16 transactions. An agent in their second year should be able to do 24 to 36 transactions. If they're trained properly and held accountable, and you generate leads for them, and you create a culture and environment for them to thrive, and you create all the systems and processes that they plug into. And that is your job if you are a team leader or a broker owner. And if you haven't done that, and if your agents aren't seeing that kind of success, you need to reevaluate the process you're plugging your people into. And so when people would join our world, we were able to give them a roadmap to success. Just like we can give you a roadmap to building a team, we created that roadmap for you. Actually, just recently we updated it. If you want a free copy, again, go out to growwithers.com. You can download a copy of our elite team building map or guide. So what we found was If an agent came on board and focused doing 3 transactions a month, one deal would come from their sphere of influence, one deal would come from an internet lead we generated to them, and then one deal would come from their own outbound prospecting efforts. That would equate to 36 transactions a year, which based on our split structure, that would end up netting them around $100,000. And so what really became fascinating with the 2,500 internet leads that we've converted over the last 10 years, we started tracking every call, every contact, every appointment, every closing, every commission dollar retained, every commission percentage that was paid out on a listing versus a buy side. We tracked how many houses a buyer went on, how many listings we received, how many showings would take place on that listing. We knew the difference of how many showings a Craigslist lead would go on versus a Google lead versus a Zillow lead. We had every analytic we needed to help us make better choices when we would deploy our capital for marketing dollars. That's the big picture. And we found in time, and I'll share the numbers with you now, that if an agent made 150 outbound calls, and that could be not necessarily a phone call, just an attempt to have a conversation. It could be at an open house, at a mastermind event, or an actual phone call. If they made 150 attempts, they would sell one house. That's the math. That's been math for 10 years. That has not changed. Year 1, that's what we found. We've tested it year 2, year 5, year 10. Here we are, 2022. I'm recording in 2021, and that's the number. So knowing that, we broke it down even further. We knew to get to that 150 mark, we knew it takes 5 call attempts. Just take 5 random numbers, cold dial, use neighborhood search on Mojo Dialer, pick up a phone book if they still exist. Grab your database of 1,000 people that have probably never been called before. Call 5 numbers. One decision maker will answer after 5 calls. You'll get a 20% answer rate. Out of 10 humans you talk to, 1 out of 10 will accept an appointment. So we know that we have to make 5 calls to get a contact. We have to get 10 contacts on the phone, decision makers, to go on an appointment. And we have to go on 3 appointments to get 1 house under contract. That's where the numbers go from every 150 call attempts equals 1 sale. And so knowing these numbers, agents wanted help with who to call. And so we started paying for internet leads so that they could have people to call. And this is how our team launched and grew so fast in its first 12 months. In 2011, we signed up with Boomtown. In 2012, it was our first full year as a team. I had about 6 brand new agents. I knew nothing about how to build a team at the time other than books I had read. In a very short amount of time, I learned a lot, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was taking a lot of risks, just like a lot of people listening right now. So we had about a 6-person team all of 2012. We averaged about 500 leads a month on our website. These are forced leads on a squeeze page off Boomtown. And we went from 70 deals a year that I was doing. I only focused on listings in 2012, and we went to 240 sides. We went from 12.5 million when I was in production alone to over $40 million in production. And it was my goal that once I got to a point where the team generated for me over $300,000, which was the best I did when I was on my own, that I would stop selling. And this is a big point. A lot of people are scared to stop because if I made 300 and my team makes me 300, now I'm making a net total of 600. How could I walk away from that? Well, that's the choice I made. So flash forward to 2014, end of year, we went from doing the 240 sides to over 425 sides. At the year in 2014, we were the number 1 team in our market. We were the number 1 team at our brokerage, which was an indie brokerage at the time. We had attracted an additional 6 agents. I started to find that the average agent on our team did about 20 transactions. So if I wanted to do an extra 100 deals, I'd hire 5 new agents. We obviously would have to add 3 agents to keep 1. So 1 agent would burn out of the business and decide they don't like it. 1 person would choose they didn't like the team, and then 1 person would stay. And so we started to find we needed more agents to do more deals. We started generating more deals, and then we trained the agents on how to work the leads. And we knew how to work the leads because we had the data, we had the track record, we were converting deals. And so the way that breaks down, going into the big picture conversation, is every dollar we spent, and this is the same number today as it was 10 years ago, every Google ad dollar, and same with Facebook, was at $1 literally to get someone to click. And it took 10 different humans clicking on that ad to get 1 person to give us their contact information. So I'm going to engage you so you have to answer some questions here. How much did it cost me to get a lead? It's $1 a click. I needed 10 different people to click to get 1 of them to give me their info. The other 9 said, no, thank you, I'm going somewhere else. So $10 to get a lead. So then we'd give those leads. Every 24 hours, a different person would receive all the leads. We average 50 leads a day right now and for like the last 5 years. So 50 leads end up coming in. That costs me how much? To get 50 leads. 50 times $10, because it's $1 a click, $10 for one lead. 50 leads cost us $500. We expect a 2% conversion ratio off 50 leads a month. So if I give one person 50 leads on that day, they have 30 days to follow up with those 50 leads, getting them in their system, making sure they're in the right category. And we train on all this within Elite Real Estate Systems on our lead conversion topic. And we would teach that agent how to convert one of those 50 people. And if they could convert one of those, essentially I've paid $500 to close one deal. Our average commission in our market's around $6,000. The agent kept $3,000. I kept $3,000 less $500. So I netted $2,500. That's a 5x return. That's what I experienced in 2012. That's still what I'm experiencing in 2021. 10 years later, it's a 5x return on Google ad spend. And this strategy is working for our clients all across the country. The dysfunction the challenge wasn't generating leads. That's the easy part. That just takes money. The hardest part is finding agents willing to work the leads, that trust the process, that are willing to systematically follow up with those leads over a 6-month period of time. And why I say 6 months is those leads on average, 1 out of 50 will buy or sell a house, but not month 1. The average amount of time it takes a lead to incubate is 6 months. So if it registers today, our expectation is that within 6 months from now, it's going to go under contract. So an agent that's working internet leads consistently over a long period of time needs at least 6 months to have a fair chance or a fair crack at those internet leads going under contract. And imagine what happens in year 2 and year 5. And now we're almost into year 10. We have over 400,000 registered leads inside of our Boomtown database today. 400,000 people, there's 100,000 registered leads. We have 400,000 humans, anyone that's bought, sold, referred in our system today. And they're all getting drip emails. They're all getting drip text messages. They're all getting called by internal sales agents and virtual assistants, dependent upon certain predictable habits that they're doing on the website that tell us that they're more likely to be buying or selling a house. And so there are processes and systems to plug people into. A third of our deals have attributed to those internet sales. The other 1/3 of Sphere deals, a lot of those were 1 point an internet lead. And so the way we handle that is the first time a person buys and or sells in a 12-month period, we charge a 50% referral off the gross commission. The second time they buy or the second time they sell and the 10th time they buy or sell for the rest of their life, that lead then becomes that agent's Sphere. So we only make money once. It's not like the Dave Ramsey ELP program where you're always paying a referral fee, or Cardis, Serva, NEI, any of those national referral companies that always take a little cut every single time. We're only making money once on the buy and or sell if those two events happen in the first 12 months. So what we found from a big picture standpoint is that if we created a culture around systems and processes, and if we created the key performance indicators that you plugged an agent into, what exactly do they need to do today, tomorrow, this week, this month, this year to make a certain dollar amount? We've broken it down so far that if an agent comes to us and says, I want to make $50,000 a year, I know they need to make 75 calls a week. I know that if they say I'm going to make $100,000 a year, I know they need to make about 105 calls a week. And so it's not about just willy-nilly putting a number, a pie in the sky and just working hard all year round, every year, year after year. You need to have people be able to plug into a process that's proven itself, that they know that if they go on 4 open houses, they can expect to sell 1 house. They know that if they go to 3 mastermind events, they're going to get at least 1 referral. And the only way to know this is to track everything analytically. And it's not as hard as one would think. We have a very simple master Excel spreadsheet that we've created that anyone that comes into our world through Elite Real Estate Systems will gain access to, and you can use it for yourself. We also refer people to Sisu. Sisu does an amazing job tracking analytically and gamifying the entire tracking process for your agents, so you can help motivate people to have sales and to make the calls and to do the activities necessary to get certain results. And so these teams, these master teams all across the country that perform at a high level, that do 1,000 transactions a year, this doesn't just happen overnight. This is a long and arduous road. You have to create it. It's nothing different. I'm in Nebraska, so we'll use an analogy of having a garden. Leads are just like seeds. You have to plant them, and then you have to water them. They have to nourish. Some of them won't grow. Some of them will have weeds. Some of them won't turn out, but there will be fruit if it gets worked and if somebody's working it. And the more intent you are on making sure that the agents are being trained properly to be able to overcome objections, to be consistent in showing up and making their calls, to going to company events, to being acknowledged, to having fun cultural events so people feel included and they feel like they're part of a community. There's a lot of strategies around building and scaling. Not everybody's wired the same way. You look at like the DISC test, and it separates people into 4 different categories. There's a Gallup strengths test. There's lots of different tests out there. What we found is we wanted to be a solution for all personality types. We wanted to be able to motivate and inspire people independent of which personality type is their dominant. We also wanted to be a solution for an agent that just joined the industry, which would be a dependent agent, and the agent that's been in the industry for a little bit of time, which would be your interdependent agent, and the icon agents who had been in the business for 30 years, who we'd call our independent agents. When we owned our real estate team and we weren't a brokerage yet, we tried to be the solution to all 3, and it was very challenging to be a solution for independents, not being able to offer them the commission splits and opportunities that we would be able to offer if we were a brokerage, which is the reason we took the number one team in the world at Berkshire, the number 1 team in Nebraska for, I want to say almost 10 years. And we launched KW Elite in 2020, 1 month before the pandemic hit. We launched with about 50 agents. Today, we have almost 200 agents. We grew almost 400% in 18 months, launching mortgage, title, insurance, all incubating out of 1 location. We're now in 8 offices across Nebraska, and we've also gone into several other states. And our intent is to help save the industry. If we want to talk big picture, I talked about where we came from, where we are now, and where we're going is we want to save the industry. We believe that the residential real estate agent of the past is under attack. No different than Blockbuster being under attack and then going away because of Netflix and other online video companies. And so we think that the traditional agent will not be able to stand the test of time. The traditional agent, as it was yesterday, a decade ago, is not going to be necessary in a decade from today, maybe even 2 years from today. And so we have created or coined the phrase agent advisor. We believe for a realtor to continue to be necessary, they need to use technology to help assist the consumer in the buying and or selling process by utilizing technologies like 3D and 6D, 3D Matterport or 6D rendering. There's a lot of other technologies using predictable analytics and artificial intelligence that also can aid in the buying and or selling process that the agent needs to empower the consumer with. We also need to play a role in making sure that the consumer is getting the very best mortgage product or the best refinance product, the very best homeowner's insurance, home and auto insurance, the best term life insurance, whole life, disability, health. The list can go on and on. When we think realtor, so many people think a person opening a door, sticking a sign in the yard. Those are the agents of the past. You need to think agent advisor. We need to become and train the people in our world to become advisors to people wanting to buy and sell real estate, as well as anything and everything else that revolves around the real estate transaction. Title insurance, home inspection, home warranty. You could go into any type of things that are fixing the house up, designing, decorating, any type of handiwork. You can be the true one-stop shop solution where the consumer can go into one place and gain access to a mortgage company, a title company, an insurance company, an investment company, a digital marketing company. All of these tools, all of these businesses in one place with the agent at the center of the transaction as the fiduciary, guiding the consumer. If that's how your company is positioned over the next 2 to 10 years, it will survive, it will thrive, and you will be different. And that is what the big picture is all about. Elite Real Estate Systems and the Team Building Podcast wants to help people that are on that journey. If you want to continue doing things like you did last year and 10 years ago, congratulations. You're going to end up like Blockbuster. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. The consumer is smarter than they've ever been. They have more information than they've ever had. They do not need the average traditional realtor to help aid them in the process. Look how many people are selling for sale by owner and getting almost as much, if not as much, as they would have gotten had they chosen to list with a realtor. We have to take it to the next level. We have to show the consumer that we can do more than just put a sign in the yard and take a few pictures. And we can do more. We're going to change the industry together. We appreciate you guys listening. This has been a fun episode. It's been interesting just getting to talk and kind of share with you my mindset on all of this. If you disagree, if you agree, feel free to reach out, post something again on iTunes. There's nothing better than going to the Apple Podcasts, giving us a 5-star and kind of giving us a shout out. If you disagree with something, you guys it doesn't hurt my feelings. I'd love to hear people's opinions on these topics and kind of learn where you think the industry is going. We're making a lot of educated guesses. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody knows. But I'm sharing some information today from a big picture standpoint going into 2022 in a current pandemic state, post-pandemic state, whatever your position or belief is around that. The pandemic's obviously changed the world. People expect a virtual option. The office that we're in, we coined the phrase a hybrid tech-powered office of the future. I believe the consumer demands that. They want to be able to have the one-stop shop solution, but have the option of doing it virtually. And as I start thinking about the teams of the future, there's no reason your team has to exist hyper-local. You should be able to build an environment when it comes to culture, leads, accountability systems, and strategies that can traverse state lines. Agents should be able to join you from any of the 50 states. You should be able to hang their licenses under the broker of that state, but be able to have them as part of your community, which is what we're doing with Elite Real Estate Systems for the teams that are inside of our world. And it can traverse brokerage flags. So there's going to be a lot of really exciting things coming down the pipeline inside of our world. Stay tuned, keep paying attention, and just maybe there will be opportunities for us to partner in the future. Thank you guys so much for listening. This has been a really fun episode for me. I hope you got something out of this episode. And again, if you need any other information about upcoming events, we're hosting several in Omaha workshops, as well as our team building summit, which is every summer. We have an upcoming event in just a couple weeks in Long Beach, California. So if you want to take part in that and find out about all of our upcoming events, go out to growwithers.com. And until next time, Happy New Year.